Welcome to the Explainer. So let's talk about ethical AI. We hear that term thrown around all the time, right? But what does it actually mean? And more importantly, is it really doing the job of protecting us from the downsides of all this powerful new tech?
Listen to this. The source material is warning us that we're basically building tools that could cause damage in ways we can't even fathom yet. And ethical AI is supposed to be our safeguard, the rule book meant to keep all of that immense power in check?
But is it? That's the big question. In this explainer, we're going to peel back the layers on that convenient narrative around AI ethics. We're going to use the research to look right past the buzzwords and see what's really, truly missing from this conversation.
Okay, so let's start with what the big tech companies themselves are saying. This is the promise, right? The public-facing version of what they're doing to make sure AI is trustworthy and transparent. So you see companies like IBM and Intel publishing these, high-level principles. They talk a great game about augmenting human intelligence, about transparency, protecting privacy. And on the surface, who could argue with that? It sounds fantastic. But this is really just the beginning of the story. Okay, so let's dive into the first big crack in all this, because the single biggest technical challenge to these principles is something called the black box problem. And it's a fundamental issue that makes those promises of transparency, well, incredibly difficult to actually keep.
So here's the deal. Some of the most powerful AIs out there, like deep neural networks, they can learn to make decisions in ways that are just fundamentally incomprehensible to us. It's not that it's too complex, it's that the AI is literally finding patterns in the data that a human brain just can't see.
And that, right there, creates a massive problem when it comes to accountability. Think about it. If an AI denies you a loan, or maybe a job, or even flags you as a criminal risk, you'd want to know why, right? But what happens if nobody, not even the people who built it, can actually tell you? And this is the absolute core of the legal challenge. Our whole system is built on concepts like intent, proving someone meant to do something, or causation, proving their action led to a specific harm. All of that just starts to break down when the decision maker is an unexplainable black box. This is where that gap between the rhetoric and the reality gets really, really wide. Because when you're facing these super complex technical and legal problems, the word ethics can become a really powerful PR tool, something used more for managing a company's image than for actual genuine accountability.
One researcher, Luciano Floridi, actually gave us this really useful framework for spotting these tactics. He calls them the ethics gerunds. So you have things like ethics shopping, where a company just picks the principles that don't mess with its business model. Or my favorite, ethics blue washing, which is basically just wrapping yourself in the language of ethics to look good. And the list goes on, from lobbying for favorable rules to just shirking responsibility when things inevitably go wrong.
And this timeline just shows that tension perfectly. While the companies are publishing all these high-minded principles, just look at what's happening on the ground. It's often their very own employees who have to stand up and protest. From refusing to build targeting tools to fighting back against military contracts. It shows this deep, deep conflict between the company's stated values and what it's actually doing.
So let's bring this down from the abstract. Let's see how this all plays out in the real world. Because these aren't just philosophical problems, right? The failure to get this stuff right has some very real and often very damaging consequences.
Just take synthetic media for a second. The scale of it is just exploding. We're talking about nearly 10 billion, that's billion with a B, deepfake detection checks a year by 2027. And this isn't some future problem. This tech is already being used for everything from financial fraud and job scams to political disinformation.
And the impact is being felt across all of society's most critical areas. We've got lawsuits alleging that algorithms are fixing prices, discriminating in who gets to see housing and job ads, and even being used to deny medical care to elderly patients. These are truly life-altering decisions being outsourced to code.
Now, here's where it gets really, really interesting. This slide shows us how we actually measure if an AI is doing a good job. These scores you see here, BLEU4 and CIDER, they're automated ways of grading AI-generated text. But here's the kicker. As you can see, the scores the AI gets have a really weak correlation with what an actual human doctor thinks is a good or useful report. The AI can get a high score on paper, but completely miss the point from a medical standpoint.
And this research feedback form shows us exactly why. Look at what the human experts were actually asked to rate. It's not just about grammar, it's about factual correctness, comprehensiveness, and even a medical Turing test, which is basically asking, does this sound like a real doctor wrote it, and does it actually make medical sense? These are the critical, nuanced details that those automated scores just completely miss.
So, if the vague corporate principles aren't really cutting it, and our technical metrics are falling short, what does a real, meaningful approach to AI ethics even look like? What's the missing ingredient here?
Well, experts from the Partnership on AI argue it's about a fundamental shift. It's not just about writing down principles, it's about changing your practices. It means putting real money and resources into this. It means bringing in experts from fields like sociology and anthropology, not just computer science. It means actually taking the time to listen to the communities that will be affected. And maybe most importantly, it means directly addressing the power imbalance between the tech companies and everyone else.
Ultimately, I think the real takeaway is that we just have to look past the buzzwords. The next time you hear a company talking about their ethical AI, we have to ask the tougher questions. Who actually benefits from the system? Who might be harmed by it? And who really holds the power to decide? Because that is where the real conversation truly begins.